All right. Hello and welcome to week 12 of the semester. We're reaching the tail end of the semester. Just 1 week until Thanksgiving break. You're almost there. Like I said in this week's schedule, thank you for all the hard work you've put in so far. If there's anything I can do to help you finish out this semester strong, please let me know as soon as possible. I'm more than happy to help you out. Know that this point in the semester is really stressful, so if you need any help from me, don't hesitate to reach out. Anyway, this week we're going to kind of continue our work with resumes, but this week add on the component of a cover letter. So a big question that pops up when you bring up cover letters is whether or not they still matter. Some people, like a lot of recruiters, are going to tell you that they're kind of fading out. They're not as important anymore. But hiring managers say that they are still really important to include when submitting a resume. Experts from the Harvard Business Review recommend always including a cover letter, because even though it might not necessarily be a necessity in some situations, it could be the thing that sets you apart from other candidates. Hiring managers like cover letters because it can help them obtain as much information about a candidate as possible. As we know from last week, a resume needs to be really brief. It's not in complete sentences, so a cover letter can kind of fill gaps as far as certain skill sets or experiences that a candidate has had. It can help hiring managers avoid expensive bad hires. So maybe someone expresses themselves really well in a resume, but then their cover letter comes along and it's just not written well, and it turns out they're not necessarily the best candidate for a position. And it can reveal writing skills that are missing in a resume. So again, a resume is really brief, not complete sentences, totally different organization than a cover letter. So a cover letter kind of lets you show off your writing skills in some complete sentences and a different mode of organization. So again, it can really set you apart from other candidates if you know how to write one of these well. So how do you write one well? So you want to make sure that your cover letter, like your resume, is very customized. Cover letter should have 3 primary parts, which we're going to break down through the rest of this presentation. First would be an opening that captures attention, introduces the message, and identifies the position. So you want to get your reader's attention, you want to let them know why you're writing them and what position you're either applying for or looking for. The body of your cover letter is what's going to sell the candidate and focus on the employer's needs. So here's where you're really going to spotlight your skill set. And the closing requests an interview and motivates action. We'll get to that in a little bit. First, gaining attention at the opening. Sometimes gaining your reader's attention can be one of the most difficult parts. So a good way to do this to immediately out of the gate get your reader's attention is addressing them by name. It's going to make it seem really personal, a lot more appealing to a hiring manager. To find someone's name, whoever is relevant to this position you're applying for, use the company's website. You could call that company's human resources department and ask who is in charge of hiring for this position, or check out a site like LinkedIn to see who is relevant based on your position, whether they're in the department you're applying for, whether you know they're a recruiter. All of these sources can help you out with that. If you still can't find the name after exhausting all of these resources, you might want to consider replacing the salutation in your cover letter with a detailed subject line. So instead of something like, "Dear Miss Smith," you would say, "Application for marketing specialist position." If the position has been announced, and that means if it's been posted on a website like Indeed, or it's been advertised on some other platform, the company is specifically looking for candidates, you can use a direct approach in your cover letter. If you don't know whether there's a position open, use an indirect approach. So if you're using this, if you don't know there's a position open, but there's a company you'd really like to work for, so you're sending them your resume just because you're interested, that would be called working with an unsolicited job. So they're not necessarily looking for candidates, but you're kind of putting yourself out there and letting them know that you would be an asset to their company. So we're going to talk a bit about solicited jobs and how you would open those after, of course, addressing your reader by name. So a good strategy would be referring to the name of an employee in the company. So say you know someone who works there, and they either suggested this job to you or they've told you really great things about working there. It's okay to kind of name drop a little bit. Make sure you have a good personal or professional relationship with this person before you do that, but this can be a really good way to grab a hiring manager's attention. So an example of that would be something like, at the suggestion of Ben Wyatt in your legal services department, I submit my qualifications for the position of staffing coordinator. Just lets the hiring manager know that you already have a kind of subtle connection to the company. Another strategy would be refer to the source of your information. So for this, if you're answering some sort of advertisement, include the exact position they advertised. So if you found an opening on Indeed, use the title of the job exactly as they have it written. And also include the name and date of the publication. So say, found it on Indeed on October 5th, something like that. So an example of that would be, my talent for interacting with people, coupled with more than 5 years of customer service experience, make me an ideal candidate for the Director of Customer Relations position you advertised on the Career Journal website on August 3rd, telling the hiring manager exactly where you found it, that you know your stuff, that you've been on the lookout for these kinds of positions. And finally, another strategy is refer to the job title and describe how your qualifications fit the requirements. So a good example of this would be, because of my specialized training in finance and accounting at Michigan State University, I'm confident that I have the qualifications you described in your advertisement for a staff accountant trainee. So again, you're referring to that job title specifically as they had it written, letting them know that you have good credentials to fulfill this position. Specialized training, a degree from a university. This is just a subtle way to kind of go ahead and get the ball rolling with explaining your skill set. Openings for unsolicited jobs. So if you did not find an opening listed on some sort of career website or other platform, you could find a company you'd really like to work for and reach out to them and say, here's what I have to offer. Do you have any positions that would be well fit for me? And some ways to open that kind of cover letter. A good strategy would be demonstrating an interest in and knowledge of the reader's business. So show the hiring manager that you've done your research and that this organization is more than a name to you. You know what they do, you respect what they do. Good example of this would be, because Cigna Health Net Incorporated is organizing a new information management team for its recently established group insurance division, could you use the services of a well-trained information systems graduate who seeks to become a professional systems analyst? So you're showing the hiring manager from this company that you've done your research on their organizing of a new information management team. You're kind of just putting your foot in the door, saying, I know this is happening. I have skills that could be applicable to this. Is it possible that I could join your organization? Another strategy for this would be show how your special talents and background will benefit the company. So show them why you would be an asset to this organization. An example of this could be, could your rapidly expanding publications division use the services of an editorial assistant who offers exceptional language skills, an honors degree from the University of Mississippi, and 2 years experience in producing a campus literary publication? So if you can't necessarily find any specific endeavors or current things going on at a company, this is a great strategy to just kind of list what your main attributes for benefiting this company would be. A big part of cover letters, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, is emphasizing reader benefits, really letting a hiring manager know why you would be worth hiring. The body of your cover letter is really focused on promoting your strengths. So you, again, use the body of your cover letter to plug your qualifications. This is where you can really list out and offer some exposition behind your skill sets that you don't necessarily get to do in a resume. Here you can really say, I'm good at X because of these 3 things I did while I was in college. If you're responding to a solicited position, so the job has been posted on some sort of website or platform, explain how you fulfill the stated requirements. So it's okay to kind of take the language they use in that job posting and sort of recycle it when explaining your own qualifications. If you're prospecting for a job or looking for an unsolicited position, you may not have exact requirements, but your knowledge of that field should give you a good idea of what's required for the position you want. So say you're applying for an unsolicited job, but you know that it's an accounting position, you could list skill sets that you know are required of someone in that sort of position. So again, here you really want to stress the reader benefits. You're listing your skill set, but in a way that shows the reader, here's how these skills I have are going to be a benefit to you. So a poor example of this, how you might write something in your cover letter could be, I've completed courses in business communication, report writing, and technical writing. That's all good and fine, but that doesn't give your reader a lot of explanation of why those courses are actually going to be valuable in a workplace. So an improved version of this would be courses in business communication, report writing, and technical writing have helped me develop the research and writing skills required of your technical writers. So you're still listing all the same information and letting the hiring manager know you've taken these courses, but just briefly illustrating how those courses are actually relevant to what you would be doing in this position. In the body of your cover letter, you might also want to include some relevant personal traits. Like we talked about last week, employers are looking for more than just technical skills. They're looking for team players, hard workers, people with really good interpersonal communication skills. So you might want to include these. These can be really valuable, but make sure you're not just listing them off. That can get kind of tedious to read through, and again, it doesn't really stress the reader benefit. So you want to include documentation that proves you possess these traits. So an example of this from the textbook could be something like, in addition to developing technical and academic skills at Florida Central University, I have gained interpersonal, leadership, and organizational skills. So again, these are some personal traits that are actually really valuable in the workplace. But here, this author goes on to actually explain how they developed these skills. As vice president of the business students organization, Gamma Alpha, I helped organize and supervise 2 successful fundraising events. Quantifying experiences, like we talked about last week, is great. These activities involved conceptualizing the tasks, motivating others to help, scheduling work sessions, and coordinating the efforts of 35 diverse students. I enjoyed my success with these activities and look forward to applying my experience in your management trainee program. So it lists these skills, gives explanation, and closes on a really nice reader-oriented statement. So while it's talking about personal experiences throughout the paragraph, it ends by saying that they look forward to applying these experiences in this specific position. To close out the body of your cover letter, you want to make sure that you refer the reader to your resume. So you can do that by either making a direct reference to your resume, like adding on a sentence, please refer to the attached resume for additional information regarding my education, experience, and skills. Or you could make it part of another statement. Something like, as you will notice from my enclosed resume, I will graduate in June with a bachelor's degree in business administration. One isn't really better than the other, just kind of depends on how the flow of your cover letter and what you think looks best. You want to close the entire cover letter by motivating action. So you should conclude by asking confidently for an interview. Don't ask for the job. This looks really bad. It's very presumptuous. Just don't do it. Never a good idea. Do, though, make it easy for the reader to agree to conducting an interview by supplying your phone number and the best times to call you. So a poor example of a closing would be something like, I hope to hear from you soon. Kind of generic, not super memorable, doesn't really give easy information as far as following up right away. An improved example, this brief description of my qualifications and the additional information on my resume demonstrate my readiness to put my accounting skills to work for McClellan and Associates. Please call me at 555-123-4567 before 10 a.m. or after 3 p.m. to arrange an interview. Very specific, very reader-oriented, gives the hiring manager something concrete to go off of in contacting you for the next step. Some final tips for a successful cover letter. Pay attention to how many sentences begin with I to avoid repetition. So it's obviously impossible to talk about, your experiences and your skill set without using the term I, but if every single sentence starts that way, the cover letter is going to start getting really boring, really tedious, and you might run the risk of your reader losing attention. You can avoid this through a few different strategies. You can make activities and outcomes the subjects of sentences, not yourself. You can focus on the you view whenever possible, and move phrases from within the sentence to the beginning. So some examples of those strategies. As far as making activities the subject, here's a poor example of this. I took classes in business communication and computer applications. Kind of just an overly brief sentence, doesn't give us a lot of context, begins with I. An improved example, classes in business communication and computer applications prepared me to ... So here you're taking the activity, so those classes, and making them the subject of a sentence, really spotlighting them. And again, it's not horrible to use I. It's not like you can never use it. You just want to make sure that you have a variety of sentences throughout your cover letter to keep things interesting. So the other strategy, making outcomes the subject. A poor example of that would be, I enjoyed helping customers, which taught me to ... Improved, helping customers was a real pleasure and taught me to ... Using the you view, like we've worked on recently. For example, I am a hardworking team player who... Improved, you are looking for a hardworking team player who... This also works really well for focusing on those reader benefits. So you could take something like, say, in the actual job posting, they say they're looking for a hardworking team player. A sentence like this gives you the opportunity to just take that language right from the job posting and recycle it for your own use. And the last strategy, moving phrases from the middle of the sentence to the beginning. So your original sentence could be something like, I worked to support myself all through college, thus building. And improved, all through college, I worked to support myself, thus building. So you don't have to go through and change every single sentence that begins with I, but if you go through during your proofreading and notice that almost every sentence begins that way, or that things just sound kind of choppy, these strategies are really good for kind of breaking that up, adding in some sentence variety, and making sure it's just more interesting to read. Kind of like how we talked about last week, recruiters and hiring managers are reading tons and tons and tons of applications and resumes and cover letters. So anything you can do to set yourself apart is really great and worth it. So up next for this week, You want to make sure you read the prompt for the week 12 assignment. It's going to ask you to make a little revision to your resume from last week and compose your own cover letter. Then you'll complete the assignment and turn it in on Canvas. And that's all you have for the week. If you need any help, any clarification on any of these ideas or terms or anything, feel free to reach out. And otherwise, I'll be in touch. Thanks.